Here are a couple questions from 406 to get you started today. So I just skipped to a few that looked a little bit more challenging. So this time you've got a circle and they're telling you where the center is and a point that the circle passes through. So you can frame your equation because you know the center. So that framework would be x minus 2 squared because it's going right to plus y plus 3 squared because it's going down 3 equals. So I need to figure out r squared for over here. So we're actually going to use the distance formula because if we know where the center is at 2, -3, and the circle passes through 5, -1, the circle's going like this, right? So we can find the r value by doing kind of the distance formula Pythagorean theorem with our x and y values. So if my x value is starting at 2 and it's going to 5, 2 to 5, that tells me the base of this triangle is 3. And if the y values are going from -3 up to -1, that's a distance of 2. So to find r squared, a squared plus b squared will give me c squared. So 9 plus 4 is 13, and that would be r squared. Because if I took the square root of that, that would give me this distance r. On number 7, they want you to put this into the correct form so that you can sketch the graph of the circle. And to me, because you can divide through the x squared and the y squared by 2, I would just go through and divide everything by 2. I know that that's going to give you a fraction here, but it makes it easier to do the problem. So I'm just going to divide through by 2 here to start. X squared plus y squared minus 2x minus 4y minus 1/2 equals 0. So my second step is to rearrange my equation. So I really have x squared minus 2x next to each other, and I have y squared minus 4y next to each other equals positive 1/2 if I move that to the other side. So I'm going to complete both of these squares. So cut this in half, -1 squared is positive 1. So I'm going to add positive 1 on both sides of the equation. And here, cut this in half, -2 squared would be positive 4. So I'm going to add positive 4 on both sides of the equation. Now I'm going to put this into factored form and this into factored form now that they are both perfect squares. So this is x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals, what do I have over here? 5.5, it looks like, 5.5. So then I want to graph my circle. So I'm going to go right 1, up 2. So right 1 and up 2 is the center of my circle, and I need to take the square root of 5.5 to find the radius. So the radius is about 2.3. So I'm going to go 2.3 in each direction and draw in my circle. All right. I'm going to skip over to number 1 on the back, finding the center and radius of this circle equation. Just in case you're having trouble with that, completing the square. So you might want to pause the video, try this one first before I show you the whole answer. And that way, if you're having trouble, maybe you can catch kind of what you're doing wrong. So again, when this coefficient is the same in front of x and y squared, I would just start by dividing the whole equation by 2 before you start. So I would have x squared plus 10x plus y squared minus 12y. What's 74 divided by 2? 37. So plus 37 equals 0. They've already put kind of my x's and my y's next to each other. So all I have to do for my next step is I'm just going to subtract the 37 to the other side and complete the square. So 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to add 25 on both sides. And -6 squared is 36. So I'm going to add 36 on both sides. So my circle is the circle x plus 5 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals, so I have negative 37, positive 25, and positive 36. Comes out to 24 on the right. And they want you to find the center and the radius. So my center is at negative 5, positive 6, and my radius is whatever the square root of 24 is, 4.9 about. Or if you want to leave it as the square root of 24, that's fine. Or if you want to reduce your radical, let's see, this would be 4 times 6, so 2 root 6 is reduced radical form. Any of those is fine. Number 3, so again, practicing putting this into conic standard form. So you might want to pause the video first and put this into conic standard form. I was just going to talk about the rest of this terminology, so maybe pause the video. Now I'm going to put it into the standard form. So let's see, x squared plus 6x, y squared plus 8y equals negative 17. Complete the square by adding 9, complete the square by adding 16. So I'll have to add a total of 25 to the other side. So now I have x plus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 20, oh, not 24, sorry. 25 minus 17 would be just 8. Oops. So what are they asking me? They want to translate this equation 3 units to the right, 2 units down, and what is the new center and new equation? So if I'm going 3 units to the right, I'm currently at negative 3. Won't that just put me back at 0? So this would just be x squared. And this is currently at already negative 4, and they want me to go 2 more units down. So then I'd be at y plus 6 squared. What's the new equation and what's the new center? So my new center would be at 0, negative 6. Because originally it was at negative 3, comma, negative 4. I've moved right 3 and I've moved down 2. This one, I thought the k value might scare you a little bit. So what value of k will this equation have a radius of 4? So if you notice, k is the constant that we would have moved to the other side of the equation. So let's just set this up as x squared, let's put it in order, x squared minus 2x plus y squared plus 4y. I'm going to put equals negative k because we would have subtracted it to the other side. I would add 1 here and add 4 here and add 5 on the right-hand side. Now, technically, you don't have to complete all this other work. We're done on this side besides completing the square. We want this to come out to 16, right? The radius is 4. What will make this be 16? So negative k plus 5 has to be 16. It sounds like k would have to be negative 11, right? Because negative 11 plus 5 would give me 16. So if k had been negative 11 to start with, right here in this spot, we would have added 11 to the other side. So this number would be 11. And then when we add our 5, we would get 16. So k has to be negative 11. I think this is a good SAT question. They like throwing in kind of an understanding of these constants. All right, and I wanted to just look at number 6b, because this again is completing the square, but this time it's with an ellipse with some kind of big numbers. So we can't just divide through by 9 because now this is an ellipse. So we're going to put our x stuff together. So 9x squared minus 9x 25y squared minus 50y equals 19775. So I'm going to factor out a 9. That will give me x squared minus 1x. And now I need to complete that square, and that is not going to be a nice square to complete. So I apologize. And then I'm going to pull out a 25, y squared minus 2y equals 19775. Because do you see what I'm saying? This is not going to be a nice square to complete. So I would have to cut negative 1 in half. So that's negative a half. And then when I square negative a half times negative half is positive 1/4. 9 times 1/4 is what I have to add to the other side. And 9/4 is how much? 2.25. Over here, all I have to do is add 1 inside the parentheses, and so I'm adding 25 to the other side. So let's see, I get 9 times x minus 1/2 squared plus 25y minus 1 squared equals 19775 plus 2.25 plus 25. I end up with a decimal over here, which is not great. 19802.25. So let me just show you, when you divide through, this is 19,802.25. 19,802.25, and then this is going to equal 1. Let me just show you, how would you reduce this fraction so that you could have your a squared value down here in the denominator? Well, if you think about what you're doing, if you had like 9x squared over 36, you're really just taking 36 dividing by 9, and that gives you the 1/4. So you really could just take this big ugly number, divide by 9, and that will give you the a squared value for the denominator. So I'm just going to erase this so I can write my final answer over here. So I would have x minus 1/2 squared over, I'm doing that number divided by 9. So a squared 2200.25 plus y minus 1 squared over, take that number, divide by 25, 792.09 equals 1. So that would be my final equation. Oh, they wanted me to determine the eccentricity, and this is part B. So you still have to go back and do part A. I didn't have to write this final equation. Well, I kind of did. So the eccentricity is C divided by A. So my C value, this is A squared, this is B squared. So I'm going to take A squared, subtract B squared, and then take the square root, because that would give me C. So 2200.25 minus 792.09, take the square root. 37.5 is about my C value. And what's my A value? It'd be the square root of 2200.25, 46.9. So when I take 37.5 and divide by 46.9, I get 0.8 about. So 0.8 is my eccentricity for part B. So I'd like you to star that you're going to go back and do 6A, but you might need a separate sheet of paper. This one's going to work out a little bit nicer for you. Sorry, there were a lot of decimals. This one, something must have been funky when I converted this to a Google Doc. I apologize. So go back and do 6A. The last one I want to do together, 7A. Find the equation of an ellipse satisfying the given conditions. Here's its center. It has a major axis length 12, which is parallel to the x-axis, and a minor axis of length 10. Parallel to the x-axis means that this is a horizontal ellipse, right? Major axis. So it's going to be x minus 2 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 1. That's the easy part, 2, 5. If the major axis's length is 12, how much does A have to be? A by itself would just be 6, right? So this is 36. And then minor axis is 10, so B is half of that, which would be 5. So there's your equation. So you have some more to finish up on your own, and I'll have a full answer key for next class. And I'd like you to submit your work to the 4 pages on Google Classroom so I know that you completed it. And let me know if you have any questions.